Hey everyone, this is the 5th indie devlog episode of the 2D action RPG, Resonant Blade. Last time we looked at the Sonic Pulse ability, the Snake boss, and I shared some of my thoughts on the background music. If you want to catch up on the previous episodes, just click up here. In this episode, I'll share a bit about the story behind Resonant Blade, some new urban tile sets and other art updates, and I'll introduce the new NPC and dialogue system. The story of Resonant Blade takes place in the future on a distant parallel Earth called Terra, and that's kind of loosely based off of our own Earth and its history. What happens is that Terra's atmosphere and air quality has worsened and worsened to a point to where if someone were to walk outside without a breathing apparatus, they would die within an hour. And of course, this led the Terrans to try to come up with a solution. And so there's the idea of colonization beyond Terra, and then there's also the more kind of immediate fix, which is to create these superstructures around cities called biodomes. And so the biodomes would filter out all the toxins in the enclosed area. So around the same time, the first sentient AI machine is created. And this AI machine is getting smarter, gaining intelligence, and it finally realizes that, hey, these humans are killing themselves, and eventually they're going to take me down with them, so I need to do something about this. Basically, the AI machine goes rogue, and it hacks into the biodome's automated systems and shuts off their air filtration. Some cities with more sophisticated firewall systems are able to stop the hack, but most cities, and mostly humanity, falls victim to this AI attack, and a lot of people die. Here's where the main character's story begins, who I'm just referring to as Hero for now until I come up with an actual name. About a year before the AI attack, Hero goes to Ionia, the global capital of Terra, to work as a lab assistant in Proto Labs. During the AI uprising a year later, his hometown is destroyed and his family's killed. Hero's devastated and filled with thoughts of revenge, so he ends up joining the Terran Alliance military. A year passes, Hero works his way up the ranks and joins an elite military unit, the Triad Force, who happen to be planning a raid on the AI headquarters. And that's pretty much when the game starts. There will be a little bit of the history told beforehand, and then you take control of the main character during the raid on the AI headquarters. Alright, so now I'm going to get into some of the art updates with the game. So previously I talked about the main character sprite just being a filler. And so now that some of the game lore and the main character's story is kind of in place, it seemed like a good time to work on a more finished version for the main character. Luckily, one of my artist friends, Jason, has volunteered to help with some of the art. We actually worked together on a game jam project, Dreamgazer, a few months ago, and he helped me out with some of the art, animations, and sound effects. So he wanted to do some concept art for the main character, and I basically told him that I was looking for the hero to have some cool, sleek, futuristic elements, especially since he's part of an elite military unit. So we went through a few iterations and eventually got to something that looks really awesome. And he's also wearing the AV augment here. The main character sprite is in the works right now, and we already have the idle poses, and they're looking pretty cool, so I can't wait to get them in the game. Besides the whole sci-fi futuristic feel for the game, I also wanted to have something else related to sound to tie into the overall art aesthetic. I started looking into something called cymatics, which is the study of wave phenomena, especially sound, and their visual representations. An example of this would be to take some sand and pour it on a thin metallic plate that's sitting on top of a speaker. And then when you play a sound or frequency through the speaker, the plate will vibrate and resonate at different areas or nodes, causing the sand to shift and create interesting patterns. And check out this video to see all sorts of different cymatic examples. And so basically what I want to do is incorporate these visual representations as symbols for frequencies and also tie it into the art somehow. Also, after working on the story, I felt inspired to start creating more of the game world itself. So I started piecing together some more tile sets for an urban city environment. I was using a piece of software called Tiled to paint maps using tile sets and then export that as an image file and upload that into Unity. I found out that there are some limitations with animated tiles and sprite layering, at least how I was doing it, so I just switched to using the built-in tile editor inside of Unity. That way I'll have more control over the tiles, maps, lighting, and animations. Before, the background colors were completely black and white except within the range of the AV field. So after building the city tile set, it seemed a little drab not being able to, see the rest of the colors outside of the AV field. So I changed it to where the background map and tiles are not affected by the AV field, but enemies and other objects will still be. After doing this though, the AV field graphic around the player just looked like a light. There wasn't a lot to distinguish it from the rest of the map, so I created a new sprite effect for the AV field to help make it stand out a little. Besides that, I also made some tweaks and improvements to the UI and the Resonant Blade sprite. For the HP and energy bars in the top left corner, I removed the text and added more of a sleek metallic border around the bars. I also threw in a little meter just underneath it, which shows the current charges from pairing with the Resonant Blade. And so once you absorb 3 frequencies that make up a major or minor chord, some text will appear underneath the meter and the colors will begin to fade out, showing how long you have left to use your limit break. And so with the Resonant Blade itself, I made a new sprite that mirrors the design of the charge meter. It has 3 segments that fill up the same way that the charge meter does. I also creating a glowing aura around the blade that changes color based on the current resonant frequency equipped. And the last thing that I added into the game is the NPC and dialogue system. As a test for now, I threw in a dummy NPC, Bob. He wanders around aimlessly and has no animations, but he does have some dialogue. I made a quick animation for when you start the conversation and end conversation, and the dialogue box will just kind of expand quickly and then shrink quickly when you end the conversation. And I'm thinking I'll probably add character portraits later that pop up on the bottom left and bottom right to indicate who is speaking. So you can walk up to an NPC and talk to them, and you won't be able to move or attack while in conversation. The speed of the text can also be changed depending on the situation. I made it to where the player can cancel the text and immediately skip to the fully displayed text if they're in a rush or they read really fast. I still need to lay out the text ahead of time to avoid words from jumping from one line to the next when reaching the boundary of the box. And I also need to add some support for text that's longer than the size of the dialog box, so it'll automatically scroll to the next chunk of text whenever the player presses a button. So that's it for this episode. I know last time I said I would share some more updates with the snake boss, but it's not quite finished, so I'll save that for another time. For next time, I plan on adding in an inventory system and lootable items, shops and shopkeepers, and more interactive environmental objects. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment below if you have any questions or feedback. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you next time.